Hi, and welcome to the Love Monday podcast, episode 4. Today we're going to talk about what it feels like to hit rock bottom. If you hate Monday, maybe you feel like you've hit rock bottom, or maybe you haven't, but rock bottom is a place where you have nowhere to go but up, obviously. And so we're going to talk about today what it takes for us to actually do something different to love Monday. So I talked to a lot of people about this, and a lot of people say, yeah, I hate Monday. I want to do something different. Come on, let's do something different. And then I talk to other people who are like, yeah, I hate Monday, but I don't really want to do anything different. It's too big a risk for me to try and do that. And then I talk to other people who are desperate and they're feeling like they'll do anything to change. Those are the people at rock bottom. Now, I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I talk to a lot of people, and I used to do, when I first started coaching people about loving Monday, like Friday, but for a different reason, what I found was, what I did was I started, because I was such a believer in what I had found, that I wanted to help other people find the same thing. And I thought, it's like I say, everyone should love Monday just like Friday, but for a different reason. And that different reason is you're engaged in what you do. You're actively enthusiastic about the work you do because you love what you do. And you have a good culture, a good environment. All things are going for you, and so you love Monday. You don't dread it just like so many other people, like 70% of people who dread Monday sometime before Monday. Anyway, as I started coaching people, I said, I'll do this for free. If people want to change, this is so important that you can love Monday, and everyone can. Everyone can. I don't care what your job is, what your career is, what your education level is. You can love Monday just like Friday, but for a different reason. So when I started this, I said, I'll coach people for free. And I started coaching people for free. And you know what happened? They were all enthusiastic to begin with. It was like, I'm going to have a change of life. I'm going to have a change with my change of career, my life's going to change. My relationships will improve. And all of that is true. But they're excited in the beginning, but we get very far in. And then it gets hard, because if I coach you, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to do some hard things. You're going to have some hard conversations. You're going to have to make some hard decisions. And whenever it got hard with somebody I was coaching for free, they always said, you know what? I think I'm just going to stay where I'm at. And that was always sad to me. And so for that reason, I don't coach anyone for free anymore. In fact, I don't coach anyone for cheap anymore. Now, but I will coach anyone who wants to change, and I'm not out of the price range for anyone who is really committed to this, but I'm going to make you stretch to get there. I'm not going to try and sell coaching today. That's not what I'm here for. We're here to talk about what motivates that change. And there are different ways to get motivated, and this one is about hitting rock bottom, which is the ultimate motivation, it seems like, for anybody who couldn't get motivated at an earlier stage. And we'll talk about those stages. But let's talk a little bit about what makes us change. We could, and how do we go about that change? We could just sense we need a change, and people who are not risk averse when it comes to change, they're like change minded. They'll tend to look at that and say, okay, it's time to change. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to proactively make a change. Then there are others who are like a little more they have a little more aversion to that change, and they'll hold on until things get a little bit worse, and then they're a little bit more motivated. And then there's a whole other group of people, and this is a lot of people. I don't know, I don't have science on this to give you ratios, but a lot of people won't change because they're very change averse. And they won't change until they hit rock bottom, which is unfortunate, but I'm actually one of those rock bottom dwellers. I tend to have to get pushed right to the edge before I make a change. Now, it's not always that way. There's things I want to learn and things I want to improve in, and I'll do that. But if it's going to be a big change, I find I tend to be more of that person who's going to need to hit rock bottom before we get there. So I'm going to tell my rock bottom story before we're done here. But let's refresh this and talk about why you hate Monday. Now, I talk about 4 reasons that people hate Monday, and we'll get into these in detail, probably one podcast at a time in the future. But right now I'm going to reset that, and take it a different way as well. So the 4 reasons people hate Monday is: 1, they're trying to be good at everything. I call that the Michael Jordan mistake. Trying to be good at everything. And you'll have to go back to episode 1 or tune into the future episode about mistake number 1 to find out what I mean about the Michael Jordan mistake. Mistake number 2 is the Marty McFly mistake. Marty McFly was the main character in the movie Back to the Future, and he was fixated on his weaknesses and what he couldn't do. So mistake number 2 is fixating on your weaknesses, the Marty McFly mistake. Mistake number 3 is the Bruce Jenner mistake, which is trying to be something you're not. Now, don't get all upset about me judging this in any way. I have no political agenda here. I have no bias against any orientation or anything in life. I'm just saying that Bruce Jenner said, well, Caitlyn Jenner said, I was Bruce Jenner for 65 years and miserable. That's the point. People are making, in their careers, they're making the Bruce Jenner mistake. They're an accounting clerk or a doctor or a lawyer or a tow truck driver for however many years, and they're miserable, and they don't change because they're not miserable enough. And so those are the first reasons. The fourth reason that people hate Monday is they have a horrible boss and they choose to keep that horrible boss. They don't do anything about it to get rid of that horrible boss. And so again, we'll talk about these in future episodes. You can go back to episode 1 to get a summary and kind of a synopsis of those 4 mistakes. But I want to take that kind of a layer deeper and say, why do you hate Monday? Those are the 4 main reasons, mistakes you are personally making that are going to make you hate Monday. But there are some other reasons that I want to talk about that are kind of subsets to those reasons. And one of them is your boss. So that's mistake number 4. Yeah, you've got a boss that's you don't gel with for whatever reason. They may not be well trained. They may be a tyrant. They may don't care about you. There are lots of reasons people are bad bosses. So your boss may be a reason you hate Monday. Your role may be a reason you hate Monday. So your job title, not your title, but your role in your wherever you work might be a reason you hate Monday, and we'll talk about that a little more in detail, because you chose the role, right? So why would you do that if you don't like it? Well, there are reasons that maybe you liked it in the beginning or thought you'd like it and you don't like it anymore. So the third one is your company and the culture. So the people you work with, the culture itself, the company itself, what it stands for. These are all 3 reasons why you might hate Monday that are kind of subsets to those 4 mistakes. So your boss, your role, or your company and the culture, and with that I group, your coworkers. Maybe you're at odds with them or something like that. So these are all things you can do something about, and you can personally do something about them. But let's talk about these reasons a little more in detail. So your boss, you have a bad boss. He doesn't meet your needs in terms of things like expectations. Do you know what's expected of you at work? In terms of tools and equipment, do you have what you need to do your job? Utilizing your talents, do you get to do the things that you are really good at doing every day? Obtaining your opinions. Does your boss ever ask you for your opinions on how to do the work? I mean, you're on the front line doing the work. Wouldn't it be nice if you could give your opinions about what's working and what's not? Maybe your boss is ignoring that, doesn't ask you. You volunteer things and it gets ignored. Whatever. Making you feel valued as a person rather than just another human resource. I kind of hate that term, human resources, because we relegate human beings to the same category as raw materials, and I just hate that. So does your boss treat you as a person rather than just another human resource? And then development opportunities. There's a recent study by McKinsey and Company who said the top reason for people leaving their jobs in 2022 is lack of development opportunities and lack of development and opportunities for growth. 41% of people who are leaving their jobs in 2022 are leaving for that reason. Even more than for a bad boss, compensation, or having meaningful work. The number one reason is they're not being developed. So those are your bad boss. Those are the things in your bad boss category. Your boss, it might be a reason you hate Monday, and it's those things that we just talked about. So then let's move to your role. Your role and why you might hate Monday. You're trying to be something you're not. So again, you're making the Bruce Jenner mistake. You're in this role, and it's not really suited for you. You're not really fit for the role. You don't necessarily have talent to do that role. And a good way to tell if you've got talent for it, because if you got talent for it, you're going to have peak experiences while you're doing that role. And a good way to tell that is if you look at the tasks that you do in a day, how many of them give you energy and how many of them drain your energy. If most of your tasks give you energy, then you're able to use your talents, and you probably don't hate Monday that much already. But if you look at your role and it's stuff that you just like, it drains my energy, time moves so slowly, I kind of don't know what I'm doing. I have to ask for help a lot, and I just don't ever want to do it again. If I never had to do it again, I'd be really happy. That's a sign that you don't get to use your talents, your inborn talents on the job, and it's not sustainable. So that's one reason. So you're trying to be something you're not. What you are your talents, and you need a job that's going to allow you to expand, use, and maximize those talents. And if you're not getting that opportunity because most of the work you do drains your energy, yeah, you're in the wrong role. You just are. But you've chosen that role. You've chosen a role that's not good for you. So that's the other thing. So what made you choose that role? What attracted you to that role? Did somebody else say, hey, there's a good job, you ought to go do that, it pays well? Did you go in it for the money alone, or did you know what the work entailed? You're in a role that's just not good for you. So, and again, another one here, your role has changed since you took it on. So that's another reason your role may be something that you don't like anymore, because you chose this role based on what you thought it was, and maybe it was even that's how it was in the beginning, but it evolved over time, and you no longer get to do the things that you took the role for. And so now your role is making you hate Monday because you hate the role. Well, you got to take a look at that, and there are things you can do with that too to have conversations with your boss to see if there's a way that any of that could be changed, or if you could slot into something else. But that's another reason. You took the role with good intent, and the role changed on you, and so now you hate your role, and therefore you hate Monday. Third one that we talked about is your company and your culture. So what is it about your company and culture that you don't like? Because again, you probably chose it. You applied for a job there, so you liked it for some reason, or at least thought you did, but now you don't like it anymore. So what's going on there? So one of those reasons is you didn't know what you were getting into, or the culture itself has changed. It was one thing when you took the job, but now it's changed to something else. And why would the culture change? Well, you could have leadership changes. You could have an ownership change. Sometimes you're part of a company that gets acquired by another company, and the bigger fish that acquired the company you were part of has changed enough stuff that it's just not where you signed on for, and it's just not the same thing anymore. So you don't like the company and the culture. And again, all of these things you can look introspectively and see what's your part in it, and you really should do that. What is your part in it, and what is your role in making it better before you jump ship and go to somewhere else? Because that's a big decision too. And now if you're not change averse like me, that's maybe not such a big decision, but it can be for a lot of people. But those are three things. So to recap that, your boss, your role, your company or culture are the things that are going to make you hate Monday beyond those four mistakes that make people hate Monday. So those are some things to think about. So I now want to talk about something I'm calling the race to rock bottom. And maybe that's not a good term for it, but the path to rock bottom. And usually when we hit rock bottom, we've had opportunities to not hit rock bottom before we get there. And so typically people who are not averse to change, don't have any change aversion, they will start to, at the early stages of things that are feeling like, yeah, I don't really like this much anymore, they're going to make a change. And so I call that the window of proactive opportunity. The window of proactive opportunity is you start to get dissatisfied. And the window of proactive opportunity is the place where I call quiet firing. And this is a term that's becoming more and more popular in the last couple of months. Quiet firing is where you start to get passed over for opportunities. You don't get the cool projects anymore. Your boss doesn't seem to notice you're even there anymore. So some of those things feel like you're being quietly fired. And maybe you are. I don't know. It could just be something you're perceiving, but you start to sense this, and that's a good time to go have a conversation with your boss. First of all, communication is going to solve a lot of these problems, but let's say you've done that and you're just feeling like, I'm uneasy about this. So there's this window of proactive opportunity where you could do something to change this. So what happens in this window of proactive opportunity is you start to get dissatisfied with the situation, with your boss or the company or your role, or something's just going sideways for you and you don't like it anymore. So you consider a move. And so this is where the people who are really proactive in taking this proactive window of opportunity for change, they do it. They say, okay, well, what am I going to do? So things are going poorly with my role or whatever, or my boss. I'm going to communicate. I'm going to do everything I can to make the situation better where I stand. And if they can't do that, then those are the people who say, well, I got to go somewhere else. I got to move to a different department. I got to move to a different company. I got to move to a different boss. One of those things they do. So the people who are not risk averse or change averse will take that early window of proactive opportunity where they start to feel quietly fired, and they go somewhere and do something different. Well, they do something different either way. Whether they stay or they go, they do something different. That, though, when for people who are a little more averse to change, they'll start to have doubts creep in. They'll say, yeah, I should do something, but man, I don't know if I can get a job as good as this one. What if I end up worse? And you start to have doubts about changing, and then your window of opportunity slams shut. And so you missed the window of opportunity, the window of proactive opportunity, where you're starting to feel quietly fired, the culture shifted on you, the job shifted on you. And then you move into the plateau of complacency. So we talked about the window of proactive opportunity, where that's where sometimes quiet firing starts. That's the quiet firing stage. The plateau of complacency is the quiet quitting stage. So now you've missed your window of opportunity. You decided to stay, but you're not happy about it. And so again, here's another opportunity for you to do something. If you decided to stay, make sure all of those things that are bugging you are resolved. You got to go have that conversation with your boss or whomever you have to fix those things. Because if you don't, you get deeper and deeper into onto this plateau of complacency. Things bug you more and more. You start quiet quitting. You start to put in less effort because it's like, why should I do that? I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm not getting the cool opportunities for advancement. My boss ignores me, doesn't know I'm even here. I might as well quietly quit. So you no longer stand out, but you kind of don't care about standing out anymore. You want to, you do care, but it's sort of if I'm not getting any value out of this, I'm not going to provide it as any more value than I should either. And so you start to get on higher, more firmly and firmly on this plateau of complacency, the quiet quitting stage. You get even fewer opportunities now because it's noticed that you're not doing much to warrant more fun opportunities and greater opportunities. So you get fewer and fewer. And then it just starts this downwardly spiral. And then you move into the rock bottom reality, the reality of hitting rock bottom. This is the nowhere to go but up stage. So we had the quiet firing stage, the quiet quitting stage. This is the nowhere to go but up stage. And this is where you've been relegated to a lower stratus in the organization. You may have even been demoted, possibly, or you may have been given horrible, crappy assignments because, now they're going to quietly fire you even more. They may either, whether it's on purpose or just subconsciously, they're pushing you out. And are you going to stay? So this is what happens at the rock bottom reality. You become just another number, just another cog in the big machine. And if that cog breaks, they'll just replace you with a newer, better cog. And that's the reality of rock bottom. So again, here's another opportunity for you to do something proactive and get out before you get fired, because ultimately that's probably what's going to happen. You get on this downward spiral, your employer gets on this downward view of you, and it just goes lower and lower and lower until when a hard decision has to be made, you're the one on the top of the list to go. And that's not where you want to be. So this is those are kind of the stages of what we go through when we're going toward rock bottom. We all hit all of those stages. We don't just all of a sudden find ourselves at rock bottom. We had opportunities to change. So what does this feel like in reality? Well, I'm going to give you my story, my rock bottom reality story. So I worked at a big company for almost 20 years, and I was in management of that company, and I was given lots of opportunities. It felt like more opportunities than a lot of people, and I learned a lot. And I always said of that company, I will stay here as long as I'm learning and have opportunities. Well, it got to a point where the learning kind of stopped and I was getting fewer and fewer opportunities, and I was starting to feel like I was quietly being fired. I actually applied for a position, or wanted to apply for a position. I did apply for it in the end, but when I talked to my boss about that advancement opportunity, he looked at me like I had two heads, and he said, "I'm really surprised by that. I really think that's not a good move for you, because I think most people would be surprised that you'd want to move into that role." And it was a higher level management role. It was my career path. So I was surprised that he would say that to me. But did I communicate effectively and force him to tell me, hey, why would you say that? I mean, that's the next step in my evolution here. Why would you say people would be surprised at that? Give me some feedback, but what I did was I said, oh, well, you think horribly of me, and so I took that personally, as opposed to saying, oh, well, give me more feedback about that. So let me know. So I got this chip on my shoulder, which then made me start to feel like, well, why am I even trying? I've been doing hard, good work. I've been well respected in this company, and now you're going to disrespect me by telling me I'm not fit for this position, and then you're not even going to tell me why. You're only going to say that people would be surprised by it. So he may not have had any good feedback for me, and if I challenged it, he might have said, okay, well, I guess you're right. And maybe he would have gone to bat for me. But because I let that thing drop, I didn't get the opportunity. I think I applied for it. I don't think I got interviewed for it, but I didn't get the opportunity. Well, then, so I'm feeling quietly fired as time goes by. And then I start quietly quitting. I remember sitting at my desk one day after this company had a small group of layoffs. And I remember sitting there thinking, that's how we're all going to go out of this company. It's just a matter of time until we all go out of that way. We get fired out of this company. That's how everybody leaves. Very few people are retiring from here. So anyway, as I did that, I'm thinking about that. That's how I'm going to go someday. And I thought, I'm looking around my cubicle, and I'm looking and I'm seeing pictures that my kids have drawn me and handed me as I'm going off to work, and I post them there proudly, and they remind me of them. Well, I start to thinking, well, on the day they walk me out of here, I need to make sure I get certain things. And so I took all those pictures down, took out a file folder, and along the tab at the top, I wrote stuff I need should they ever walk me out of here. And I put all those keepsakes in there and put it in the front of my file drawer at my desk. Because I just started, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, honestly, because I didn't do the right things that I needed to. I had that window of proactive opportunity where I started to feel like, oh, opportunities are being taken from me. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to have the conversation. And if there's somebody above me who doesn't see the value in me, I need to help them see the value. And I need to force them to tell me why I'm not worthy of that position if they really think that. Give me details. I didn't do that. So eventually, that window of proactive opportunity slammed shut. And then I started to get more onto that plateau of complacency. And to some extent, quietly quitting. I'm like, why should I work so hard? I have no future here. And that's another key point. When you realize you've got no future here, why do you stay? So why did I stay? And I probably was there for a couple more years at that point after I said, why should I stay? And I pulled out that file folder. And then what happened? In the end, one day I got a call from another boss, not the same one, but the boss that replaced that boss, and said, can you meet me at the front desk? And I've told this story before if you've tuned into the podcast, but if this is your first one, I'm gonna briefly tell it again. So that day, that horrible Monday, it was a Monday when my boss calls me on my cell phone and says, Ryan, are you here in the office? And I said, yes, I am. Can you meet me at the conference room in the front lobby? And that's when I end the call and I realize this is my day. I'm not coming back. I'm never coming back to this cubicle. So what do I take with me? And I'm thinking, do I take my coat? Do I take my keys? Do I take my backpack? Well, that's going to seem a little paranoid if this is just a meeting, but I knew it wasn't just a meeting. No, he has a perfectly good office to call me to. I had a perfectly good cubicle with a chair he could have come talk to me at. He could have talked to me on the phone, but he wanted me to meet him at the front lobby in a conference room. You don't do that if you're going to keep your job. So I knew it was going to happen, but still I didn't want to seem paranoid. So I just took what I always take, a notebook, a pen, my phone, and I dragged my feet off to that conference room. And sure enough, when I got there, he said, "This is your last day. As you know, we're going through reorganization here, and this is your last day." And I got walked out the front door to trudge around in the snow to my car, to around the back of the building to my car. And that made me bitter for a while. It really did, I'll be honest with you. But you know what? I had opportunities for that not to happen to me, but I chose to bypass the window of proactive opportunity early on, probably 4 years before it took me 4 years of pretty much wasted time when I could have been doing something much more valuable that I didn't do. So I missed my window of proactive opportunity, and I got on the plateau of complacency till on that horrible Monday, I hit rock bottom. And that's where you come to. Now, what does rock bottom look like? That truly wasn't my rock bottom yet. That's how averse to change I am. That was not yet my rock bottom. My rock bottom came a couple of years after that. So I went out on my own and started trying to consult about employee engagement in that context of employee engagement, because my company had told me I was really good at engaging employees and I knew how to do that. And so I thought, I'm going to study all I can, find out how to do that. And I found out as I did in all my study, the reason I was good at it, I was naturally good at the things that they say engage employees on the job. And employee engagement matters because that makes them more productive, makes them happier, makes them stay longer, all of those things I was good at. So I went out and started consulting and helping companies do this. Well, I had some really good success for a while, but after a while I got this extreme case of imposter syndrome. And I thought, who am I to be going into these kind of small to medium-sized companies and be coaching their senior executives on how to run their business? Because it was more than engagement. Because when we got into engagement, it got into, well, here's a problem you've got in your business and why people aren't engaged. So let's help you fix this business problem. And I was really good at helping people do that. But somewhere along the line, I got this case of imposter syndrome, and I was thinking, who am I to be doing this? I've never been a CEO. I've been a mid-level manager in a large corporation, but these guys have been around more blocks than me, haven't they? Well, if I'm honest with myself, a lot of them, even the CEOs of the companies I was working with, hadn't been around the blocks I'd been around in my career. And so I had a lot to offer, but I started to doubt it. And so when I started to doubt it, my self-fulfilling prophecy came up again, and my contracts for consulting started to wither and wither and wither and die. And before long, I had no place to go but to fall back on my part-time job at the Home Depot. Because the Home Depot had told me for a year or better that if I ever wanted to get into management there, they would help me get on the management track at the Home Depot. So when I had nowhere else to go because my consulting dried up and I had applied for positions at over 200 different companies and got 2 interviews and didn't get the job in either one of those, I had no place to go. This was my true rock bottom. Because Home Depot said, we're going to go to bat for you. We're going to really try and pull some strings to get you $14 an hour. And I had gone from a place where I was making a 6-figure salary. And I was taking my MBA into the Home Depot to become a department manager in a store at $14 an hour. And they were pretty happy that they were able to get me $14 an hour at that point in time. And I just remember thinking, that is maybe 18% of what I used to make. And I'm starting over. I'm starting my career over. That was my true rock bottom. But I had nowhere else to go. So you know what rock bottom looked like to me? And it may look worse to other people. But to me, it meant I had to sell my home. I couldn't stay in my home anymore because I couldn't support living in a house at that amount. I had to go back and get a very small apartment, 625 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. It's very old, doesn't have good electrical, lots of issues with it, but I love it. I still live in it because as I got into it, I thought, I'm going to minimize and I'm going to love this. And I do. I have no desire to change it, but this was part of my rock bottom, was coming to this place, selling my home and starting over. So that's what I mean about hitting rock bottom. I had opportunities all the way along to not hit rock bottom. I could have done different things. I could have taken opportunities and maybe never gotten to rock bottom. But if you're one of those people that has to hit rock bottom, what I advise you to do is do everything you can to get there as quickly as you can. Hasten the approach of rock bottom. Hit there, jump off the cliff, do whatever you have to do to get to rock bottom if that's what it's going to take to motivate you to change. Because until you do, if you're like me and you have to hit rock bottom for change, you're never going to change and you're going to be miserable until you do. I said I spent about 4 years longer at that big company than I should have, and I was miserable most of that time during those 4 years. Quite honestly, I was miserable, and I think they could see it, and that's why, I kind of fired myself. Even though they let me go and made me trudge through the snow, I had opportunities to make that not happen. Now, what are you going to do? So with this, I'm going to go into some things you can start to do before you hit rock bottom. So take advantage of that proactive window of opportunity and start making changes. So if you're starting to feel like your opportunities are drying up, you're being disrespected for whatever reason, you're just feeling like this isn't the place for you anymore, take that now and start to do something with it. So what are some things you can do? There's a better way. First, realize where you are. Do you hate Monday? And why do you hate Monday? Is it your boss, your role, your company and the culture? Are you making one of the 4 mistakes? Do you hate Monday? That's all you really need to know. And then, is that going to change anytime soon? Is your role going to change? Is the boss going to change? Is the company going to change? Is the culture going to change? Is that going to change anytime soon? Because if not, then those 4 mistakes, you're making one or more of those 4 mistakes. You need to stop making them right away. And it might require that you do some proactive things to move into a different role, to have a conversation with your boss saying, this is how I'm feeling. Like I could have had with my boss who said, you're crazy for applying for that position. I could have said, why? Why am I crazy for that? Tell me why I'm crazy for that and force him to tell me so that we could have a good conversation about it. And maybe he was right about that. And he could have told me, well, you need this and this and this. And once you get to those, show us that. You're a great candidate for that. But he never gave me that feedback and I never asked for it. And the real problem is I never asked for it. I never forced that out of him. And so I just went on the downward spiral to rock bottom. So don't do that. So if you understand that you hate Monday, is it going to change anytime soon? Second, understand why you hate Monday. Is it the bad boss? Is it the bad role? Is it the bad organization? What can you do about that, and what are you going to do about it? Third, determine what you're willing to change in your situation. Are you willing to go get a new boss within your organization or somewhere else? Now, before that, you might have a conversation with your boss to say, this is how I'm feeling. But then you might have to go get a new boss, either within your organization or somewhere else. Are you going to go get a new role? Is the role the problem? So most people don't need to change their roles. They just need to do some tweaks and adjustments to say, this is the reason I've started hating this role to your boss. Is there something we can do about that? So will that be tweaking your assignment a little bit and staying in the role? Will it be retraining for another role? And then if you feel like you need to completely change occupations and you can't really do it within your organization, can you do something to get more exposure to that role? Can you do some sort of internship or apprenticeship in a new role that you want to do, so you can at least try it out for a while on a part-time basis to know whether or not you're going to like that new role you're aiming for? Do you need to get a new organization? If you want to get to a new organization, I'm going to say in the proactive window of opportunity, I want you to start to expand your LinkedIn network. Now, I didn't get this. This is information I got through social media coaching from a guy named Adam at DLA Ignite. So I'm going to give him credit and the people at DLA Ignite for this. A good way to start targeting people in the organizations where you want to move to on LinkedIn. So you'll go to LinkedIn and you'll start targeting people. First, you'll find 3 or 4 or 5 companies organizations that you want to work in. And then you do a search on people in those companies and see if you already have some connections in your network in those companies. If you do, reach out to them. Ask them about the company. Ask them for a meetup for coffee or a Zoom meeting or something where you could say, hey, I just want to pick your brain about your organization. I'd like to work there sometime, but I need to know more about it. What's the culture like and so forth. So start to reach out to people already in your network at those companies. If you don't have any, and even if you do, you want to expand your network in those companies by trying to connect with those people that you find in your LinkedIn search. And when you find them, you can put out, as you do the connection request, don't just request to connect with a message. And the message could be something like this one. This is what I use. LinkedIn suggested you as a person I might find interesting. I looked at your profile because I'm always looking for good people to strengthen my network. I'd like to connect if you're up for it. I'm not pitching anything or buying at the moment. I hope that's okay. When you do that and you connect with those people, it's amazing how many people will connect with you, because unfortunately LinkedIn has kind of, in my opinion, degraded to a point where more than half of the connection requests I get are somebody trying to sell me something. So if you can go in with a message like this and indeed not be trying to sell them something, just start to connect. What's going to happen is, if you connect with those people and then you start posting content, start making just posts, posting long articles, the blog posts on LinkedIn, those people that you connect with in those organizations are going to see and like and comment on those posts you make. And then people at higher levels in their organization are going to see that they did that. And then you can connect with people at higher levels and throughout the organization. But you need to be proactive in your LinkedIn approach. You need to start posting on LinkedIn. So you need to expand your network to companies that you want to expand into, getting connections with those people, start posting so that those people can start to like the things, and then people that they have in their organization that they're connected to in their organization will start noticing that and maybe even liking your stuff. And then when you see people who you are not connected to, who like your things or comment on your things or share your things in LinkedIn, then you need to connect with them with that same message and build that network. Before you know it, you're going to have 8 or 10 or 20 or 100 people that you're connected to in an organization where you want to work. And then it's going to be really easy when that opportunity comes up to reach out to that network and people in it and say, hey, can you help me get a leg up in this? Because as you know, I've wanted to work there for a while, and now there's this position that I'm extremely well suited for. Can you help me out? That's how you use your network. That's how you expand your network into those places where you want to go, so that in this proactive window of opportunity for change, before you hit rock bottom, you can start to do something. So don't hit rock bottom. Just don't do it. Don't do what I did. Do something better. So that's going to help you out. If you want to find out more information about this, go to lovemondaylikefriday.com. You can fill out the form, get in the mailing. There are courses that can help you out there. So there's some free resources. There's some paid resources. You can connect with me through that, and I would love to talk to you about coaching potentially. And though I said at the beginning, I'm not cheap, it also doesn't always require a lot of money. Sometimes there's something that we can exchange of value. Maybe there's something you do really well that would help me out, help me with my website or help me with marketing or something like that, that I would happily exchange coaching for. So though I say I'm not cheap, I also say anyone can afford coaching with me. So reach out to me if you want coaching. Go to lovemondaylikefriday.com. Subscribe to this podcast, please, and I'll talk to you soon.